this episode of Travelogue, we start the western leg of our exploration of Hainan. We'll discover a blast from the past hidden in the village, get hands-on with shipbuilding, and go on a culinary journey. And who knows, we might even learn a thing or two. Hey, welcome to Travelogue. We arrived from Beijing last night and came here straight away to Haikou, which you know of course by now is the capital city of Hainan Island. But we're not going to stay here. We are going to travel across the west side of this island, which comparatively speaking is less developed than the east and the middle, but it will show you a more raw side of Hainan which you've never seen before. Welcome to Hainan and welcome to our Hainan series. If you've been watching the series so far, you'll have seen two faces of Hainan. Welcome to the third. Things are a little different here in the West. No crowds, no tour groups. Just you and your camera out to discover. I didn't know this place existed. From what I can gather, this Angkor Wat look-alike was built in the Song dynasty 1,000 years ago. That's a century before Angkor Wat was built. Assembled from volcanic rock, these two pagodas were dedicated to the daughters of a eunuch who fled here from Fujian province. His name was Chen. And 1,000 years later, the people of this village still bear his name. Just like Mr. Chen here.
他为什么来到海南呢？他避难嘛。那小艇片段的这避难。
That's really interesting because, I mean, this old relic of the Song dynasty over close to about 1,000 years ago has been here all this time, and no one knows exactly why it's here. I mean, it's been stuck in this village, and I guess it's because it's been in this village that it's been protected for so long. But it really is quite a big, amazing find for us to discover straight out of the western route. 有大的变化了，
有大的变化，
比如说
跟以前不一样啊。
在哪儿有变化了？
现在就有很多人搬到外面了，有钱的人就搬到城市啊，什么。
那比如说去外地的、去城市，他们还回来吗？
回来啊，
还回来。所以就不管他们去了多么远，他们早晚还都得回来。
早晚。
哎，师傅您好。
现在就用这个了。
为什么呀？
因为原来没有这个嘛。原来没有这个，一定要这个啊。
那这个比这个好吗？
这个不是比这个好，这个是硬。这个不硬。一般见到第二场的时候呢，就用这个了。
您家里有多少人呢？
我家多少人啊？我家是10个人。7个人。11个人。
11个人。
11个人。
10个人啊。
刚才太忙了，没有人来帮我干。
所以都得自己干。
自己干点。等过几天呢，再叫人家来帮我干。
哦，明白。那我可以帮您。您说怎么做我
你不懂。
我不需要技术是吧？
不，你不懂干。
好，那行，那我就看您做吧。好。Well, there we go. I guess some things never change, even if you have no technique yourself. I guess it's still a family affair. I wonder if this village and the pagodas will still be around 1,000 years later. Right, time to head into town. So who would have thought it? Less than 20 minutes away, actually less than 20 kilometers drive away from the village that we were at just now, and you get a completely different view. I mean, look at this. It's like a whole world of difference. But then again, it is to be expected of the town centre of Chiang Mai. I can't complain about the view though. Okay, so Chiang Mai town is a bit busier than the village, but it's the only place you'll find accommodation. Also, brush up on your Chinese before coming here, unless you want to be met with blank stares. But if you're hungry and the only words you know are ni hao, just follow your nose. And grab a bowl of this stuff. You can get a bowl of these super bouncy noodles with all the toppings included for just $1. Now that's what I call a deal. So, locals told us last night that one of the specialties of this place was Chiang Mai rice noodles. I don't really know what it's made of, to be honest. I thought it looked a lot like squidding, but apparently it's very nice. And I was watching the restaurant owner make it earlier, and it looked like the thing was made of spring, so it should be quite nice to eat. It's good stuff. Good stuff. If you want to eat like a true local, try adding some yellow lantern chili. It's a chili that only grows in Hainan and packs quite a punch. You've been warned. Oh, what a refreshing start to the day. But if you still need something else to wake you up, I'll take you there. Another thing you might be surprised by is that Hainan is big on coffee. I've arrived at the Fushan coffee plantation, around 20 minutes drive from Chiang Mai town. Some of the best coffees in the world grow between 15 to 23 degrees north, and Fushan is smack bang in the middle. Its coffee trees grow on volcanic soil, just like Hawaii's Kona coffee, one of the most expensive in the world. Brewing Fushan coffee takes skill too. But what I love about this place is that even though it's considered a tourist spot in Western Hainan, it sure doesn't feel like it. Instead of the frantic clicking of camera shutters, you'll most likely hear the relaxed chatter of people who've come here to enjoy a cup of this strong and aromatic, almost viscous coffee. It really hits the spot. Ah, coffee beans! Not much has changed since this place was opened in the 1930s by an overseas Chinese returning from Indonesia. In fact, this was the first coffee plantation in all of China. Despite Hainan's hot weather, today the beans are still roasted in the traditional way. It's tough work, since you have to make sure you don't burn the beans, all the while fighting smoke that makes you tear up like a little girl. Who knew so much hard work goes into making a cup of coffee? It's a wonder Fushan's coffee doesn't cost an arm and a leg. I find that absolutely incredible. I mean, besides the fact that they're able to withstand so much smoke and not tear up, that they've been managing this for close to 80 years, the same traditional way of making coffee. They've got such a strong coffee culture. It's like equivalent to ancient China's tea culture, and it's kind of brought in a new way of drinking coffee. But still, they've maintained it for such a long time, and it's never changed. I find that absolutely incredible. Coming up, we'll learn all we'll ever need to know about building wooden fishing boats, pig out at breakfast, and put our vocal range to the ultimate test. Time to get back on the road. As an island, Hainan is very dependent on ships, especially here in the west, where a lot of people depend on fishing. Naturally, a lot of care goes into keeping the boats in tip-top shape. Although it looks like Parmesan cheese, these are actually strands of nylon being hammered into the boats. It helps prevent water from seeping in. Fishing as a way of life has thrived for centuries in Western Hainan, partly thanks to the Gulf of Tonkin. It's a stretch of sea between Vietnam and Hainan that was once abundant with fish. Nowadays, overfishing and competition have made things harder for independent fishermen. So perhaps in a few decades' time, this kind of lifestyle may no longer exist. But for now, there's nothing like a game of volleyball to celebrate your catch of the day. If you can play, that is. I think when we're travelling, we often get hung up on where to go, what to do and what to see. But sometimes that makes us miss the finer points of travelling. That's what I like about Hainan's west coast. There aren't as many landmarks to check off on your to-see list. Here, you're no longer a tourist clicking away with your camera, but a visitor, seeing life through the local perspective. It makes for a welcome change of pace.
Do you know what? I'm feeling a bit guilty because we've not really done anything today. All we did was drink a bit of coffee, and now we're at this fishing village called Chao Tou. But to be honest, when life slows down, you've got to slow down with it.
Next stop, Linggao County.
So we drove for an hour out of Chiang Mai, and as soon as you see this, you know you've arrived in Linggao County.
But it's such a peaceful shoreline now that it's hard to imagine 62 years ago this was the site of a huge battlefield when the People's Liberation Army came from across the strait to liberate Hainan and had their own D-Day. You can get an idea of the scale of this battlefield from the top of this 120-year-old lighthouse. We've made a bit of a detour, but I couldn't resist checking out this shipyard. Here, shipbuilders are still using wood to make fishing vessels. And although it may look like these cauldrons of fire are being used to barbecue wood, they're actually shaping them. Using the cauldron's weight like a lever and fire to soften the wood, the planks are bent to fit the shape of the ship's hull. However, these days, due to rising costs, wood is now imported from Malaysia. Each piece of imported timber is valuable, and none is wasted, no matter how small the piece. Even so, these ships are still in decline. Fiberglass boats cost pretty much the same to make and are easier to maintain. So perhaps the reason these wooden boats remain is tradition.
Well, I can't say being at a shipyard is at the top of many tourist maps, but we were told that here in Jalo you can still find people building traditional fishing boats the same way, by hand, for the last however many decades. And even though tools have changed, the traditions still haven't, and the skills have remained the same. It's cool, and it's also a pretty good way to test your acrobatics. Oh my. It's always easier going up than down. Oh my god. Don't laugh at me. It's a lot scarier going down than it is going up. But I bet you can't do this. There we go. Morning! It's 5 a.m. here in Lingal, and while I'm still in bed fighting with the alarm clock, everyone's already set out for the day. Only breakfast here is a bit different. See, in the UK we have the full English. In Europe there's the continental breakfast. And in Lingal you have an entire roast piglet. It does look good though, doesn't it? Roast piglet is a hugely popular dish here, and as soon as the restaurants open, there are already patrons lining up for their morning feast. The end result? A succulent, crackling delicacy, slow roasted to perfection over several hours. Some might say it's a welcome change from all that seafood. I just never expected it to be so popular that people would also have it for breakfast. Thankfully, it doesn't break the bank. A plate of this goes for 20 to 30 RMB. That's about $5 for a whole lot of tasty calories.
I've got to be honest, I think people here in Lingal must be very athletic, because I've never had roast pig for breakfast with a bowl of rice. And I guess it's a bit strange, but when you've actually tasted this, you can totally understand, because it's absolutely gorgeous. The skin is crackling, and then when you put it with a bit of sugar, it's like eating roast duck, but with pigs. I could do this all day. I don't know if I could do this every day, but once in a lifetime, fantastic. You know what? There are so many striking similarities between Hainan and other countries in Southeast Asia. I mean, of course, if you've been to Thailand or Cambodia or Vietnam, you see that, you know, people here, they speak in a similar manner, they dress the same way, they eat the same, similar kind of things as well. I think sometimes you really don't realise there is a tropical island here in China. You know, I didn't even realise yesterday, when we were at the ship building place, that across the river was a completely different town. But we've come here today because I've been told there's a very unique traditional song here in Xingyin town. And singing sounds a bit like singing anyway.
You're never far from the sea. That's why, besides singing, the main export of Xingyin town is fishing nets. Back in the day, fishermen's wives would sit by the seaside weaving the nets, but modernisation has made things a little easier. Still, if it weren't for good old manual labour, Xingyin town's most famous tune wouldn't have been born. The Lily May song. This little ditty, sung in the local Lingal dialect, has a history dating back to the Song dynasty. Originally a love song, it quickly evolved into an all-purpose tune that could be sung about any occasion, thanks to its catchy chorus. 1,000 years later, Lilime is now a national intangible cultural heritage, with people writing textbooks about all the different song variations. Sometimes I really do wish I understood what they said, but I think it just goes to prove that singing surpasses all boundaries. And as thanks for being taught an intangible cultural heritage, I thought I'd give them a hand with the next. Every little helps. Coming up next, it's time for camouflage and binoculars as we go bird watching. And later, we'll find out just what strange inkwells have to do with song. So we are taking a boat to go eat lunch on a boat, which is quite interesting. It would be a bit strange, but we're going to a yupag, which I guess translates to a floating restaurant. It'll be interesting. We'll get a taste of how locals have lunch, and I can't wait. Look. Huge, absolutely huge. My God. If we're to eat one of these, then... The first time I ever saw one of these things, I was absolutely scared out of my life because it's something from the dinosaur era, and it looks kind of like, I think they're called trilobites, but you can eat them, and apparently they're quite like lobster. You can't eat them. Really? No, they're not. You can eat them all over Southeast Asia. Yeah. You can't eat the turtles. You can eat the crabs, though. And it begins again. True to form, Lilime can be sung at any occasion, and that's why this old fisherman's wife's song has survived for 1,000 years. Everyone makes it their own. Back to the food. One of the great things about eating on a yupag is that not only are you supporting the local fishermen, but you're also safe in the knowledge that everything you're eating has been freshly caught. Lilime's up. Time to head south. About 2 hours drive from Lingang is Danzhou City. It's about 6 o'clock now, and we've just arrived on the outskirts of Danzhou City. And you're probably wondering what we're doing here, but about 20 years ago, there were huge flocks of egrets here in the trees, and there are slightly less now, but it still makes for a beautiful sight near sunset. Due to land reclamation, egret populations around the world are declining. Thankfully, Danzhou's paddy fields provide an excellent wetland habitat for the egrets to forage in. The huge banyan trees also help, making great homes for these nesting birds. About an hour's drive away is the Yangpu Ancient Salt Field. Although these things popping out of the floor might look like inkwells, they're actually ancient salt drying stones. It works like this. During high tide, seawater floods these mudflats. When the tide goes out, the water remains in the mud, which is then left to dry, allowing salt crystals to form inside. Seawater is then poured on this salty mud over a filter to allow salt to transfer to the water instead. Finally, this salty liquid is poured onto the drying surfaces, where the heat of Hainan's scorching sun evaporates the water,
leaving behind pure white salt crystals. 它不太像盐，我可以尝一口吧？
可以，问题不大，可以。
It's kind of got a strange, crispy, sweet taste to it. But very, very salty. 很咸，我现在在喝水了。
嗰啲呢麻油已經知你啊，唔知你堆在一起就緊不了啊？緊不了就猜緊不了是嗎
Okay, it's a bit of a complex process to be honest, but he said it's been here. They've had this for 1,200 years, so that would make it one of the earliest salt mines in all of China. And it's still mind-boggling how they do it, but I tasted some of the salt earlier. It really has a different taste. I just wish I had some fish and chips to go with all this salt. But still, it's great to see this ancient practice carried out to this day. You know, this has been a real eye-opener for me. To be honest, we've visited a lot of places that aren't really ready for tourists yet, but it's given us the chance to see local life and traditions that really haven't changed for centuries. And it's whet my appetite for the next part of our journey. I'm Taran, you've been watching Travelogue, and I'll see you soon.